Michael, we're going to go to a very tough question. I'm putting you in a place where you are the architect, right? So you have a blueprint to generate here, and I think many leaders who are very sensible will have to try to forecast. I mean, some are very pragmatic and just focus on the now, and let's maybe focus on our shareholders' value, et cetera, and so forth. Nothing wrong with that. But some others are trying to be ready up to even 2040 horizon, right? Who are those individuals that are going to have to be a must-have for our organizations to not only sustain themselves, but to grow and to create value, et cetera? Any thoughts on how you can predict that?
Yeah, I think there are some characteristic traits that will be consistent. And one of those, I think, is communication. Remember, I define communication as providing information, making sure that it's been received and understood. Otherwise, it's just a monologue. Anybody can do a monologue, right? So communication is a much more detailed, effective way of getting information to someone else, if you will. And so being able to communicate both verbally and written skills, I think will be huge. But that's something that's consistent. People talk about soft skills. I don't think that's a soft skill. That's one of the hardest skills that we have. Now, I'll talk about something else, empathy. When you are not necessarily connected by physical means, I think that you will have to be much more empathetic with people to be able to engage them, to motivate them, to understand them, because that's going to be something that you'll just be able to perceive over a Zoom, late at night at 10 o'clock when you're talking to someone in China, or 6 a.m. with someone in Europe. It's going to be empathy that helps you understand. My team make decisions, people make decisions.
Yeah.
Organizations don't do work, people do work. So it's really about the people. It's always about the people. And how do you get the people aligned and working together to have a high-performing team and be effective in reaching that goal? And I think having empathy in the new world, if you will be even more important because it's going to be part of that glue that sticks people together.
Yeah, no, very true, very true. I think, at the end of the day, also, the characteristics of that leader in that era is going to tie a lot to how we are working in that area. What does work really mean for us in that era? How does it happen? Where does it happen? What value does it generate? So how the value gets perceived, and et cetera. Do you foresee very different operating models almost for many organizations?
Well, it's already changed, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be really different because we're moving already from working with time, right? You come in, you clock in, you do your 8 hours, to working for knowledge. You pay someone for their knowledge, right? And whether it takes 2 hours or 15 hours or whatever, you pay them for their knowledge. Yeah. And so I think that it will be much more of a, quite frankly, I think it'll be very interesting if it's really just a consultant type operation for everyone. Yeah. You talk about outsourcing stuff. You don't have this brick and mortar for many businesses. And so you will just tap people when you need them for their knowledge and then move on and do something else. So whether it's research, whether it's operations, whether it's regulatory, clinical, you'll tap in people, and then that person may actually even work for the competitor or somebody else because it's competition will be on the speed of how you do your innovation. And so, having worry about, conflict of interest and things like that, it's paying people for their knowledge. Yeah. And they fulfill that knowledge base, and then you move on.
Wow. We're going to have to adapt a lot in terms of what we believe is okay and what's acceptable, what's not. How do you create that kind of a sponge kind of a mentality? I mean, because you really have got to be able to turn on a dime and question your views and be in that, the word diversity, it's going to have to be like really main drive, almost right in the center of how one thinks and reflects. Is that possible? What kind of, if someone is asking for advice, how to train herself or himself or coach themselves to do things differently, what worked for you and what worked for your teams?
I took it back. If you have these episodic utility of individuals or human resources, let's say, it's going to be very important again for that empathetic. You still have to have that connection. So there has to be trust. Remember, we talked about trust before as part of the ideal work environment. How do you build up that trust? So just by meeting, even on Zoom, I think there still has to be a little bit of that personable team building or connecting, so that you can then move forward. You need to have the same understanding of your your biases, your assumptions, so that you understand where you're coming from. Because that also tends to be one of the most critical failures of working together, is coming together and assuming that you have the exact same base knowledge that I do.
Yeah.
So then we just jump onto things.
Yeah.
And that happens all the time. 99% of the time, that's not true. And
Yeah.
so we assume that everybody just knows what we know and let's move, and that creates all kinds of problems. So there has to be a baseline, even when you do this audit work knowledge utility.
Yeah. Michael, great insights, great ideas, much appreciated as always, and looking forward to further interactions. All the best.
Yeah, great, thanks.
Cheers.